Good morning. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. We're glad that you're watching the recording of episode 166 of the Family Meeting Podcast with us today. We had a fabulous Thanksgiving. I hope you did as well. Thomas, what was your favorite thing about Thanksgiving this year?
Everybody went home.
He's a bad person.
I know. Besides the turkey and stuffing, I would have to say baptizing my two nieces and my nephew. They came in from Iowa and wanted me to baptize them. So I had the privilege of doing that in the ocean.
That was really special.
Wasn't as cold as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, the water was surprisingly nice.
And calm.
It was pretty calm.
Yeah.
There were a lot of rocks in the ocean. My brother, their dad, was the other one on the other side. Because you really, in the ocean, you have to have two people baptizing because it's a little crazy out there sometimes. Yeah. And so he did get his feet all cut up.
He fell down. He tripped over a rock.
It was funny.
He fell down.
But it's because it's my brother. And when he rolled around and tripped, it was funny. I did not want him to get hurt, but he did. He got cut up a little.
So that was great. What was yours?
Honestly, that is definitely the top one. Is them getting baptized and the whole family being here to see it and be a part of it, which is very special. And the other thing is just that my whole family came. Like everybody in my nuclear family came and their kids.
Yeah.
Which was really special. We missed my sister's husband couldn't come and some of his children couldn't come. But like our family was here and that was
your solid five was there. Yeah.
Our solid five was there. And that was really meaningful to me.
Did family photos before the baptism?
Yeah, and they were really cute, and we had a fun time with that. Like it was enjoyable. It was just a great time, and everybody got along, and everybody had a good time, and I think it was a really positive experience. So we'd like to hear about your Thanksgiving, though. So let us know what was the best part about your Thanksgiving. We want to hear about that. But other than that, we better get moving.
Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Thirsty.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 166 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about keeping your friendships in check.
When I hear that, it makes me think of hockey.
Okay.
Where like you're skating around and then you check somebody into the boards. Into the wall.
Listen, sometimes you have to do that to your friends. I don't know what kind of friends you have, but maybe that's needed.
Just go up right beside them, blindside them right into the wall, and then pull their shirt up over their head and start punching them in the face.
All right, be honest with all of us, Thomas.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that to one of your friends?
Yeah. Totally.
I watched you do it.
Yeah, totally.
At the Kaplan's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great to have good friends in your life.
They stayed in check.
Yeah, they did. I agree. They were terrified of you. Can I go ahead and...
I guess.
Okay.
Sorry.
It is great to have good friends in your life.
Yes, totally.
Okay? You need them and I need them. But how do we guard against those friendships getting out of balance? What do we do if we find ourselves spending too much time and energy on friendships, and then all of a sudden over here, our marriage and our family is suffering because of it? We're going to talk about that and a little more on today's episode.
Before we dive into that or check it out, we want to encourage you to be thinking about Christmas because it's coming. It's right around the corner. We are starting our Christmas at the Movies series in just a couple of days, so it's here. Our Christmas tree's not up yet, even though it was supposed to be.
No, it wasn't.
But Christmas is coming. And we want you to think about every single married couple that you know in your life. All right?
Got it. I've got them.
You got them?
They're all in my mind. Got it.
All right. So all of you listening out there, think of every single married person that you know. Every single one of them. They reached out to me. And they said their top thing they want for Christmas this year from you is a copy of Happily Never After.
Oh my goodness. I did not know where you were going.
Go to Amazon, order 100 copies, and give them away for Christmas to all the married people that you know. We will save the marriages of this country. So send them around the world.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty, are we ready to jump back into our episode?
I think so.
I think so too. Thanks, Thomas. Now, Thomas and I do believe in having friends. We believe in having good, positive friendships. We want our kids to have friends. We want them to have good, positive friendships.
Well, and this goes all the way back to the beginning in the book of Genesis, is God is creating things. And I bring this up often because it's so important to have these strong friendships. Because one of the other side of the arguments, some people are going to maybe listen to this podcast episode and think that we're saying friendships aren't important.
Yeah.
We're not saying that. What we are saying is there are certain relationships in your life that should be the most important. And when that gets out of balance, that causes problems. But all the way going back to the beginning, we see that we were designed and created for friendships, for close relationships. And so those friendships are important, and all throughout the scripture, it highlights the importance of having good, close friends around you.
And we value our friends.
Most definitely.
Both Thomas and I have friends. Yes.
One of our friends turns 60 today.
Yes.
So, Miss Sherry, happy birthday to you.
We love you, Sherry.
Probably listen to this tomorrow since we're recording this Tuesday on your birthday, but happy birthday to you. I hope you have such an amazing day and the best year of your life.
Listen, we love Sherry. Sherry is one of my closest friends. She is a sister in Christ, a sister for life. I love her so much. And I can't wait. I'm actually going to go surprise her in a little bit.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to go to her house and surprise her. So, but we got to get this podcast done before we can go and say happy birthday in person to Sherry. But we definitely wanted to give her a shout out here because our friends are valuable. They are important to us. We want our kids to have friends. As adults, we want to have friends, and we want our kids to understand that friendships are important when they become adults as well. But it's so important to understand that a marriage relationship must be the most important relationship in your life here on earth. And even your relationship with your kids can suffer if a friendship is way out of balance. So we're going to kind of talk about why, because we always want to talk about the why. But we're also going to talk about what to do if you're like, okay, I'm already here. Here I am. I've got a friendship that's way out of balance. How do I put a little distance between me and my friend or bring things back into balance without hurting them, without destroying the friendship altogether, or without suffering too much myself? Because the truth is, some of these friends, our hearts get knit together and we truly do love them and we enjoy spending time with them. It can be painful to have to kind of separate a little bit.
Yeah. But it may not be you that feels like it's or recognizes that it's out of balance. I know we're going to talk about this just a little bit, but it may be your spouse that feels like a friendship that you have is out of balance. So having those conversations may need to take place as well. But when we're talking about good friends, you know, one of the things that I think of is what Solomon wrote when he said, "Iron sharpens iron. So a man sharpens the current countenance of his friend." And so how important those good friendships are. This is the kind of friendships we want to have. We want to have friendships who encourage us, who sharpen us, who make us better in all areas of our lives.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for the people that God has brought into my life that are around me to sharpen me. In different areas of my life. And I think about all the different aspects, whether it is in the spiritual realm.
Yes.
I've got good friends around me who sharpen and who encourage me spiritually. I think men like Pastor Dave Tyndall.
Yes.
And we just talked on the phone just the other day just to see how things are going, encourage each other. And he's been such a good friend who spiritually sharpens me. I think of professionally, I've got great friends around me who sharpen me as a pastor. You know, people like Ryan and Mike and John and Matt and others who literally are checking in with me on a regular basis, and we're just there to sharpen each other, to encourage each other, lift each other up, sometimes kick each other in the rear end.
Yeah.
Because that's needed. And you can pick every area of your life, intellectually and all those sorts of things. We need those people around us who sharpen us.
Right.
Now, one of the issues that we can have, though, is we can connect with people and maybe be drawn in a little closer to them than we are to our spouse.
Right.
That typically happens when there's trouble between the spouse, we're arguing, we feel a little separated, certain times of life, whatever it is. So keeping those things in balance can be tough when we feel like we're getting something from somebody and not from somebody else.
That's right. And there are so many good verses that we can find in Scripture about friendships. And it just goes to show you that God created us to have friends. If friendships are important, they are valuable and good. Now, you want to choose your friends carefully and wisely, especially those that you let get close to your heart, as Thomas was talking about, those who sharpen you. And can you find that verse that I had sent you this morning?
Okay, let's see. Because
I had seen a post just this morning on Facebook that I thought was really cool, because a lady that is a very good friend of mine, she just posted about how thankful she was for a friend of hers, and she used this verse, and I thought it was so cool because we're talking about friendship today.
Proverbs 27:9, oil and perfume make the heart glad, and the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel.
Mm-hmm. When you have good friends and they have a positive influence in your life, they have good counsel, they sharpen you, it really is a joy in your life. It's wonderful. And so, like Thomas said, we aren't saying don't have friends. We aren't saying your friends are not important. They are, and we see that, and we understand that. But there's a couple of relationships that should be closer in our lives than our friends. And we talked in the past about how important it is to keep our relationship with God as the top priority. Nothing should come before God in our lives, in our priorities. He should be number one without question. And you can find more information on this. You can check out episode 155 for a deeper explanation of the topic. Because in episode 155, we talk about how when our relationship with God is good, the rest of our relationships fall into place. But things that you can do to help with your relationship with God, spending quiet time with him, listening to him, meditating on scripture, being around other committed Christians, going to church, serving him, all of these kinds of things are important to develop your relationship with God. And that is our top priority. We are followers of Jesus, and we are loving following Jesus. That is our life's joy. And so this is our highest priority. But after my relationship with God, no one can be important to me as Thomas. Thomas is next. No one is even a close second to Thomas in my life. Like, no one. They're not even close, babe.
Yeah.
It's you after God. And then, of course, my children are important, and my friends and family. But even though I say that, even though I say with my words, and I look Thomas in the eye and I say, you're the most important person on this earth, there are going to be times when he doesn't feel that's true. There are going to be times when he maybe feels like somebody else is more important than him because of the way I behave, maybe something I say, the way I spend my time. And really, if I put other people in front of him and he feels that, such as friendships, then there's going to be an issue in our marriage. He is not going to feel like he's really that important to me. And that may be happening in your life, in your marriage right now. Don't be afraid to talk to your spouse about it. Don't be afraid to ask your spouse, like, how do you feel about the friends in my life? Do you feel like you're more important than they are to me? And hear what they have to say. Listen to them. Don't be afraid of the answer.
Yeah, I would say when we think about maybe a time where you feel like a friend, your spouse has a friendship that is more important than you. I don't know that there's a specific person. I know deep down inside that I am the most important person to you. Mm-hmm. But I will say there are times where I feel like in the moment other people are more important. So it's not necessarily pinpointing a specific person. And typically that's when I feel like I've been forgotten or overlooked in a certain at a certain time for whatever, whether that is not being thought of for a meal or something like that. So I can't think, like I said, it's not necessarily a specific person or even a specific time, but there have been times where I just felt like forgotten, like not important in that moment or whatever.
Yeah.
But there have been times where I felt like your friends, some of your friends have taken advantage of you, where they're demanding so much time, so much energy, so much focus, and they're really taking advantage of you. And that's bothered me. And that's a whole other side of keeping friendships in check. But what about you? Have you ever felt like I had friendships more important than you?
I have, but only one time. And it's funny to look back now. Actually, you talked about Happily Never After, the book we wrote, and I talk about this. I actually tell this story in the book. When we first moved back to Iowa, our hometown.
Spoiler if you haven't read the book yet.
We moved back to Iowa, which in our hometown, in our home church from Alabama. And Thomas was just so happy to be home. Like, I think that you were just so happy to be...
I was happy to be out of the environment we had come from.
Yep. And also, you were still young. You were probably still early 20s. And you were really happy to have friends again and be kind of goofy again. Like, you slipped right back into pre-marriage friendship, like where you and the guys hang out.
Yeah.
And that was fine with me. Now, I had two small children. I had a 9-month-old and a 1.5-year-old, and I was pregnant with our third, Abigail. And looking back, I know my hormones were absolutely out of whack.
Well, I think I felt like, and we've talked about this for you, when you go back to your mom's house and she makes the meals for you and all that kind of stuff, where you just kind of fall back into that childhood.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's
exactly what happened when all of us guys got together.
Yep, all the guys got together, and it was like Thomas became a teenager again, and forgot he had 2.5 children.
Responsibilities.
The old ball and chain.
Yeah, but not old.
Yeah, I was very, very young.
Just the ball and chain at that point.
Yeah, and so anyway, my hormones were crazy. I was nursing and growing a baby in my womb. Like, that's a lot of hormone and energy happening.
A lot going on.
And so we had a couple of fights, one really bad one, but we had a couple of fights during that time because I felt like Thomas would leave me. How much detail should I go into, or should we just wait for the book?
You can say whatever you want to say.
It's funny because when I wrote this for the book and then Thomas, read the manuscript and edited all of his part, and he added his part into the book. It's funny because I can't remember what you said, but you said something like, I can't believe I did that. Something like that.
I believe I did that.
What did you say?
I don't know.
Okay, well, we're going to hear what Thomas's perspective is real quick, but I'm going to tell the story briefly. So we only had one car. We hadn't bought a home yet. We were living in my parents' basement while we looked for housing. And we drove from Walker, Iowa into Cedar Rapids. It's like a 30-minute drive from kind of the country into the city. Yeah. We got to his mom's house and his buddies showed up and they were like, hey, man, we're going to the mall. You want to come? And he's like, yeah. And he asked, I think you asked me in front of your friends and your mom, like, you here if I go with them to the mall? And of course I'm like, hi, yeah, go ahead, have fun.
Which is one of our cardinal rules now. You don't ask in front of people. No. We even have that for our kids. Like,
yes.
Don't ask in front of other people.
No.
The answer's going to be no.
Yeah. So I felt like I had to say yes, even though I really would. And we didn't discuss any details. How long would you be gone? What would the day was going to look like? So I'm at his mom's house. I have a diaper bag, but I have no food or playpen or anything like that. And I had these 2 babies and pregnant. And he was gone all day until night. And I had no food. And your mom, food is like the last thing on your mom's mind. I don't understand it, but like, she didn't make food. She didn't offer me food. It was like, thought I was going to die. And the kids were terrible because they were bored and they didn't have food.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he comes back into the house like rowdy and laughing and carrying on with his friends. They all come back in happy-go-lucky. And he had bought a new t-shirt while he was out. And the t-shirt it was black with a silhouette of two white figures.
Yep. Video game style, like 8-bit video game.
Yep. It was clearly a husband and a wife. And on the shirt, it said game over.
I thought it would be funny. I really did.
Now I think the shirt's funny. In that moment.
Wait, so I can get the shirt?
No.
Oh.
It brings up trauma. In that moment, I don't know if I've ever been that angry
I'm sure.
up till then or since then.
I'm sure you have since then. I've done a few things since then.
I was so mad. I was so hurt. Like he had forgotten me. And he came back with this shirt that was like so offensive to me.
It was a long ride home.
Yeah. So I was like, we need to go home. And he could tell like it was not good. The second the car doors shut, I started bawling my eyes out and yelling. I don't know. It was very weird.
Yeah.
So that was the time when I was like, yeah, you've got a problem with your friendships.
Yes.
And so we had to have that discussion. All right. Now, looking back at that story, how do you feel about old Thomas? What are your thoughts?
I feel like you were out of line.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to choke you.
Reminiscent of that night.
You can't.
I really thought the shirt would be funny. I thought you would laugh at it. But
no, but I'm saying now, as the Thomas you are right now, who has grown so much, you have developed into an awesome husband, an awesome father.
It was very insensitive, for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel ashamed of that? Like, I feel ashamed of things that I did back then.
I'm not ashamed. I feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think I want you to feel bad still.
I know you do.
I think you need to pay penance.
Yeah, I have. Trust me.
All right. To punish you.
Yeah.
And make it right.
Okay.
I'm going to go out with my friends.
You do that all the time. You did that yesterday. Literally yesterday.
I did. I'm trying to think of what I could do to actually make you feel bad. I got nothing. You're a really easygoing guy now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, friendships can become quite out of balance, and you just have to have the conversation and talk about it, and then you can go from there. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
So as you listen to these examples, maybe you realize there's a friendship in your life that needs to be brought back into balance. You know, maybe there's someone in your friend group who you want to talk to before you talk to your spouse about important things. You want to spend more time with them than you do your spouse. You trust them more than your spouse. You confide in them more than your spouse. Or you just simply like them better. And that may be the honest truth. Mm-hmm. Because of the way that your relationship is going or what's happening in life or who even your spouse has become. You may not like them that much. There are times when you're married where you just, I love you with all of my heart, but I just don't like you right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Been there.
And I know. And those are the moments, though, that I was talking about earlier, where you've got these people who are sharpening you, who are invested in you, and you can feel it's easy to drift over that direction.
Yeah.
Where you're getting that attention and that love and that support.
Yeah.
And so then you're drawn out of balance. And that's where having those hard conversations comes into place. Mm-hmm. And there may need to be conversations with friends that, because it's out of balance, it may be, hey, you've got to have a conversation with your spouse. Mm-hmm. And say, hey, listen, I feel like we're not that close right now. I feel like we're struggling. Or maybe your spouse needs to have a conversation with you. Hey, you're drawn a little further away. I feel like we're out of balance here. And so having those conversations, now maybe not in the way Lysandra had the conversation with me in the car.
Screaming and crying at the same time.
So we've talked before about having the right time, figuring out the right time and all those sorts of things. The right way to have those conversations. Mm-hmm. But they're important conversations to have.
Right. So okay, you're realizing right now you're in that situation. There's a friend that is too close. There's a friend that you are spending all your energy on. And it might not even be an amount of time. It might not be that you're spending more time with them than your spouse, but it can be the energy level. Even long distance friends can suck us dry of energy, where it's like I'm on the phone with them. I'm using all of my emotional strength to help them and kind of leaving my spouse in the dust. So say that's you. All right, listen, you can tip the scales back towards your spouse. You can bring things back into balance. But what you have to do is invest in your relationship with your spouse.
Start by getting rid of the game over t-shirt.
Yes.
That's number one.
You bought it that afternoon and you threw it away that night.
Yes, I did.
I was never so happy as to see that shirt go into the trash.
So find step one and do that.
That's right. Step one. So, whatever relationship you put the most time and energy in, that's the relationship that's going to grow. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to look for opportunities to invest in your spouse and that relationship. Things that you can do are simply blessing them with like the 5 love languages. Do an act of service for them, something that would be meaningful to them. If your spouse is like me and really likes the minivan to be clean, you could, I'm looking right at my husband, you could
get one of my daughters.
No! Vacuum out the minivan and wash it. Wow. You could do an act of service for your spouse.
Or how about instead I build shelves for the garage so you can organize all this stuff. Oh, wait, I did that already.
That was awesome.
This week.
Yeah. On Thanksgiving week, when we had all family and everything coming in, he built me shelves, and they are awesome. And I got to stack all my tubs and organize, and nothing makes me happier than organizing. That garage has been a thorn in my side for 2 years.
And Lysandra got to a breaking point because we lead a church plant. And so we don't have our own facilities. We meet at our school. They have graciously rented us some storage space that may end today. I have a meeting later on. We'll find out. But we've had to reorganize some things into storage, and there's literally nowhere to put stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it gets divvied out between me and Rusty, our executive pastor. And so we had to bring some more stuff home, and Lysandra was just in tears.
Yes, because the garage was already such a mess. So Thomas recognized that, and he
right away on the way home, I'm like, "Listen, I'll build some shelves this week. We'll get it organized."
No, you said I'll build some shelves tonight.
Yeah, it was tonight. Yeah,
you did it on a Sunday night after church, and then having people in our house for company and everything. So it was awesome. And it made me really happy.
But that's one of those things where like this is your friend, right? You know what's important to them. At least you should.
Right.
And so finding that thing that speaks the loudest to them, just like going back to the whole t-shirt thing, the thing that spoke loudest to Lysandra in the moment was getting rid of the t-shirt. That was the thing that spoke the loudest.
Yeah, because it was like something you could do that meant something to me. Yeah. So it could be an act of service. Maybe they need to hear some words of affirmation and love and positive affirmations. And you may look at your spouse and you don't like them very much right now, and you think, I don't really have anything good to say about them. That may be you right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
One thing that you can say though is, thank you for being here. I'm glad that you're here. You can find something. Maybe they go to work every day. Maybe they pack kids' lunches every day. Like whatever, find something, no matter how small it is, and just say thank you for that, or show some sort of positive affirmation about something in their character. Buy them a little gift, teeny tiny little gift, something to let them know that you thought about them. You can give them a massage. You can give them a hug. You can hold their hand. It is so hard to hold someone's hand when you don't like them very much.
Yeah.
We've been in times where we're having fights and trying to just be close, and it's just like so hard to be close to someone that you're mad at. And that may be you right now. But just do something that you can do, whatever you can figure out to do to bless them and show them love. Maybe think about the 5 love languages. But one of the most important things is spending time with them. because if you spend time with someone, you will draw closer to them. Find ways that you can get closer to your spouse, and in doing so, you may naturally distance yourself a little bit from that friendship.
But you've got to have these conversations.
Yes.
And some people want to put conversations off, and they just kind of hope things will get better. Mm-hmm. They won't get better, because here's what's going to happen. If you don't have the conversations you need to have, you're like, oh, I know I need to take these steps, and I'm taking steps to connect with my spouse. That means I have less time, less energy for friendships. If you don't have the conversation ahead of time, then that leaves your friend trying to guess why they're not as important to you anymore.
Right.
And why you've neglected them. What have I done? What's happened? Mm-hmm. And so your friend deserves a good, honest conversation. And it's literally a conversation that, hey, you are valuable to me.
Right.
I love you. I love our friendship. I appreciate all the investment that you've made in my life. Mm-hmm. But a good friend understands how important your relationship with your spouse is.
Yes.
Like, a good friend understands that needs to be your primary relationship. And I'm guessing if you're that close to them where your priorities have shifted to them, they know that maybe you're not as close with your spouse as you used to be or as you should be. Like, they get it. But having that open, honest conversation with them, they deserve that. And saying, hey, I'm trying to reprioritize and get things in order, trying to bring balance back to my life and my relationships, which means I need to spend more time with my spouse. I may have less time to go out for coffee. I may have less time to go shopping, but I do want to make this relationship a priority still. You know, that I'm not cutting you out of my life.
Right.
Right. I'm not getting rid of you. Now, if it's not a good relationship, and something that builds up you and your spiritual life and your other relationships and your relationship with your spouse, maybe you do need to cut them off. That's a conversation for a different day. Mm-hmm. But we're not telling them I'm cutting you off. It may be, hey, let's run errands together. Like, it's going to look differently. I still want to spend time with you, but I've got to reprioritize. But they deserve that conversation. Mm-hmm. And if you value the relationship, you will do what it takes to have that conversation. Of course, then you have to have the conversation with your spouse as well.
That's right. So that's another step that you need to take in this situation, is having that difficult conversation with your spouse. And it can be really hard. Depending on which side of this you are, maybe it's you that has the friend that the friendship that's out of balance. The first thing you need to do then is admit to your spouse that this friendship is out of balance and that you see it, recognize it, and that you're going to make a change.
And for some people, it might not be a friendship. I know we're talking all about a friendship that's out of balance today, but this may need to be a little different conversation for some of you. Because for some of you, it might be work is out of balance. It's not necessarily a friend, but it's a work that's out of balance. Or it may be a hobby that's out of balance. You're spending an inordinate amount of time on X, Y, or Z instead of in your relationship with your spouse. So just because, well, my only friend is my wife or my husband and these kids that are running around here. Well, you may have something else out of balance that is more of a priority to you than your spouse. So that's a part of the conversation as well.
Mm-hmm. But apologize. Make sure that you apologize for the way you've prioritized your friend or that other thing over your spouse. Own it. Don't make excuses for it, okay? Because sometimes that's what people want to do. Well, you haven't been showing me any love, so now I have to have this friendship over here. No, you're not trying to make excuses. You're not trying to justify yourself. You're simply apologizing and owning it. All right. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge what's happened and acknowledge the ways you've hurt your spouse. Acknowledge how, maybe you have forgotten them when you were supposed to do this or that. Acknowledge the fact that you have valued your friend's opinion over their opinion, and you're sorry that you have made this decision because you took their advice when your spouse said, no, you should be doing it this way, or whatever it may be. But you've got to acknowledge for the ways that you hurt your spouse, because you know what? You have hurt them. When a friendship becomes more important than your spouse, it hurts them. That's the bottom line. And so you've got to own it and apologize for it and explain to them that you are going to make that change. You're going to make a shift. It may even be necessary for you to tell your spouse that you've had this conversation with your friend. Make sure that they understand, that the friend understands as well.
Yeah.
And that you're really going to work together to change.
So let me ask you this question, because for some in here, like, they're going to be able to recognize, oh yeah, this friendship's out of balance. A lot of times we don't see it ourselves.
Almost usually we don't see it ourselves, right?
So most of the time it's our spouse who's going to recognize something's out of balance. So how do we go about having that conversation with our spouse to say, I feel like, so let's say we can go back in time. Now, if we could go back in time, I wouldn't make the same mistake I did that day. Mm-hmm. Hopefully. Cross my fingers. I'd like to think I wouldn't.
I don't think you would. But
let's go back in time and have the conversation the right way. So what does that conversation look like? Because maybe somebody, we have our listeners who are like, this is a conversation I have to have with my spouse. Mm-hmm. How would you encourage them to have that conversation?
The most important thing, I think, when you are going to have this conversation is not to accuse, but to explain how you feel. So you're going to start your conversation with, I feel like. This is how I feel. Because remember that you have a perception, and that perception is your reality. And they have a perception that is not the same as yours, but it is their reality. And so make sure that you're coming at it with I feel statements. So I feel like you value this friend over me.
So put it in the actual conversation we should have had all those years ago.
I should have been able to hold it together and been able to have a conversation without like crying and screaming. Not that I'm saying that tears are wrong. Please don't misunderstand. But I wish I could have calmed down, not said anything until I was calm, because I think that's a really important thing, is being calm and being emotionally stable when having a conversation is always a good thing.
Does help validate your points.
Yes, you don't just seem like you're crazy. So I wish I could have waited. So then I would have waited until we got home, put the kids to bed, and we were calm. And I could have said, Thomas, I really love you. And a lot of times when I start conversations
I'm like that, oh no, here we go. What did I do?
Thomas, you know I love you.
What have I done?
But I'm really feeling lately like your friends have become a bigger priority than me or the kids. It felt really bad today when you left me at your mom's house to go spend time with your friends. It's not that I don't want you to have friends, because I love seeing you happy. I love seeing you kind of be carefree for a little while, because a lot of our life isn't carefree. And I love to see you be carefree with your friends. And I want that for you. But it feels like it's not in balance. It feels like you have forgotten us in order to spend time with your friends. And so can you be more mindful and maybe talk to me in private before you go with your friends? And also tell me how long you're going to be gone. These things will help me feel like more of a priority.
So you notice how she started that conversation. It was not accusatory. It was, hey, this is how I feel about the situation. And she's able to go into some specifics. Like she lets me know right away, I love you, which is one of those warning signs. Like uh-oh, she's got to remind me.
But it is important to say the words.
It is important. She reminds me of that, and then she goes into how she feels. Like I'm not accusing you. I'm not saying that you don't love me, that you don't think about me, that I'm not important to you. This is how I feel based upon what has happened. And then she's able to give the specifics about what's happened. She also talked about, hey, I love that you get a chance to go with them and have fun and be carefree and let off some of that stress. That's valuable. That's important. She recognizes that. And then she can go into specifics about what happened. And the tone as well, because it doesn't put me on the defense. Mm-hmm. So now as we're having the conversation, because of the way that she's approached it, my natural inclination is to lean into her and to apologize and to own it. I'm sorry that I didn't think of you. that I was careless, and then go into it.
And there's also some ideas for how to make it better in the future. So at the end there, I'm talking about if you can have a conversation with me before you go with your friends, or if we can set a time limit that you're going to be gone. Like, I will be back by this time. So you're also, at the end of it all, you're also going to give some suggestions of how to help it. What could make me feel better? What would have helped if you had done it this way? Or in the future, can we do it this way? And then, like Thomas was kind of saying, what he would have said back. And which really you were apologetic in that moment all those years ago.
I was,
and you did. I know you felt bad.
Yeah.
I know that you didn't mean to do it. And that's good. But also letting them know when you're having the conversation and you say, I want you to have friends. I want you to be carefree. I want you to let off steam. You're also showing them that there's still hope in the future for you to have friendships. I'm not trying to cut you off of all of your friends.
Right.
Or say that that's never going to happen again. And so then your spouse knows that there's hope for the future for him. He's still going to have fun sometime in the future. This conversation is not fun, but you're going to have fun in the future. I am not saying fun is out or friends are out. In the future, I want you to have friends, but can we talk about how to make it better or how to make me feel like I'm a priority?
How to bring balance. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you begin to invest in your spouse. And Lysandra touched on that just a second ago. You make your spouse your new best friend, and you've got to make a decision on that my spouse is going to be my best friend. And you think about all the things that you do to make good friends, mm-hmm. or even how you became close in the first place. Because some people are like, I don't know how to do it. Like think back what you did when you first got together. That person was a priority to you. Like, you thought about them constantly, you messaged them all the time, you wanted to spend time doing what they were doing, what they loved. I mean, I used to listen to opera. Thankfully, you don't even listen to opera anymore.
I don't.
Yeah. So
I think I've become more like you and you've become more like me.
So I'm glad about that. But there's things that I used to do when we were first getting together. Why? Because it was important to you. And so therefore, it became important to me. And I think sometimes just familiarity, it does breed contempt. Like, we get into a routine and we kind of coast.
Right.
Instead of really fully investing. And so for some of us, hey, we need to get back and start doing those things that make a strong friendship. We need to start investing in that person.
And no matter how long you've been married, there should be no coast button in your marriage.
Yeah.
That should never happen. Coasting is never good, because when you set it on cruise control, you're really starting to go backwards. It's going to happen. We've got to make our marriages a priority.
Now, on episode 146 of the Family Meeting Podcast, we did a whole episode on how to invest in friendship in your marriage. So we're not going to take time to rehash that, but I would encourage you to just take a little time this week and listen to that, and then use those ideas to develop your friendship with your spouse. So family meeting tonight is going to sit down with your spouse and just have an open, honest conversation. Now, make sure it's the right time. Kids are to bed, all the distractions are put away, set your phone aside, turn the TV off, and share a time when you felt your spouse had a friendship that was out of balance. And then, hey, ask them. Has there ever been a time where you felt like somebody was more important to me than you are to me? And just sit and listen. Don't be defensive. Listen to what they have to say. Really take it in and think about it. And then discuss how to proceed as we've talked about.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about anger. Anger can become present in your home so quickly, and there can be anger towards your spouse, towards your children. Your children maybe are angry. We're going to talk about why anger exists and what you can do to help diffuse that anger.
All right, so I'm doing a break here. So if I don't usually do this when we're recording, I usually just let it flow all the way through. I have this idea for next episode, so I'm going to throw this out to you, and then we can re-record the last if you decide that's the way we want to go.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, based upon the documentary we just watched, that it would be good for us to strike while the iron is hot and talking to your kids about like sexual abuse or protecting themselves or those sorts of things. Like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
Okay.
So I think that'd be helpful for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah.
Especially those who are attached to, we're talking about, for those of you that don't know, there's a documentary about the Independent Fundamental Baptist, which is our background. And the abuse is called Let Us Pray. But not like pray. It's like
P-R-E-Y.
Preying on children, on women. And so that will be something that a lot of our people are sensitive to right now. And I think it'd be good for us to help them have conversations with their kids. I
think you're right. And actually I have that as a podcast episode idea for the future, is child abuse. And, but I am almost positive that's going to be a 2-part episode.
Okay.
That there's no way we can cover it the way we need to.
Sure.
Well, in one episode. So we'll have to make it a 2-parter.
Which is fine. So if you want to just re-record that,
we'll do.
Restate that, and then we'll go to the end.
All right. And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about a difficult topic to discuss, and that is sexual abuse, and specifically how to talk to your children about it. There is a docu-series that is out right now that we have been watching and following.
Let Us Pray.
P-R-E-Y.
Not like praying, but...
And it's definitely brought up a lot of feelings and memories and maybe even trauma. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that word is kind of thrown around a lot, but we really have a problem with sexual abuse happening in our nation, really. And it can happen in religious circles and other places. It happens in schools. It happens all over the place. And we're going to talk about how to talk to your children about it. We're going to make this a 2-part episode.
At least. We'll see what happens.
We are going to talk about how to talk to your children about it. But I also had to go through some sexual abuse training to work in a certain ministry. And when I watched this training, it literally blew my mind. There's a lot I didn't know about sexual abuse. And so I want to share some of the things that I learned, and also how to bring this into your family meetings and how to talk about it carefully. And then also maybe how to heal if you are someone who has sexual trauma from the past.
So it's not a fun conversation to have, but I think it's important for us to have this conversation with our kids to help protect them. Mm-hmm. So that they can spot when someone is trying to groom them or some other thing. Or if something happens, they know how to have the conversation. It's going to be difficult, but it'll be so important and valuable for you. And so I want to thank you for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
I'm glad that you brought that up because, like I said, it was on my episode list.
Yeah.
And it's just never the time when you're like, I really want to talk about sexual abuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially regarding children. Like, I just don't ever want to talk about that, but I know we have to have this topic discussed. And so I think you're right that this is the time. So I'm really glad that you went ahead and kind of interrupted the train of thought here to bring it back to that.
Yeah, it just kind of hit me this morning that we hadn't really talked about what was next. And so it just kind of hit me, and I forgot to mention to you before we started recording, So when I saw you didn't have anything written in the spot, I almost just interrupted you right there. But
yeah, which would have been fine. But I had it written down in my episode lists and schedule, but I did not write it on our notes today. So you get to see, that is why you watch the YouTube, because you get to see the behind the scenes, interactive, amazing, cool things that happen.
Yeah, that nobody else sees.
Nobody else knows.
If you just listen to the audio, if you're not committed, you don't get the behind the scenes. So
yeah, and this was thrilling.
Yeah.
I mean, this was thrilling, and I know that you feel that way too.
Well, we hope that you have a great day. Thanks for watching.